Hello, it's Fiona here with another Wee Wonder. So I thought I would go round Stirling, but because it's the week of Hallowe'en and it's misty November moodiness, I thought I'd go for a slightly spooky Wee Wonder and focus a bit on some of the slightly dark parts of Stirling. Let's start by tramping up Moat Hill. Just north of the castle, it's a tiny wee knoll on the northerly tip of the Gowan Hill. Moat Hill is actually a vitrified fort. It seems likely it was either destroyed by the Romans to quell the locals or when the Roman Empire retreated south. This was the site of one of the Jacobite batteries during the siege of the castle in 1746. But these cannons are actually pointing towards the Wallace Monument, which is pointing away from the castle. Maybe didn't want to take the risk of a modern-day rebellion. But also the medieval beheading stone. It was once Stirling's medieval execution block. In 1424, James I's uncle, Murdoch, Duke of Albany, was executed there along with a lot of his family following an attempted coup. If you peer onto the top, you can see there are what look like axe marks in it, and also a channel which is said to be there to allow the blood to drain out. The other name for this hill is Murdoch's Now and Heading Hill, or perhaps that should be Beheading Hill. And there's a reference to it in Walter Scott's poem, The Lady of the Lake, where he says, "And thou, O sad and fatal mound, that oft has heard the dread axe sound." It's getting darker. Let's head into town, see what else we can find. This dark, forbidding building is the Oldtown Jail, and that's actually the Oldtown Jail, not the Old Town Jail. And it was built to replace the much worse jail, which was the toll booth, which we'll come on to. Back in the day, being thrown in jail was the least of your worries. You could also be lugged, which is when you have your ear nailed to a post and people throw things at you. You could be in the jugs where you're chained by the neck and things get thrown at you. You could be put in the branks or the scold's bridle. It's all to do with humiliation, and a lot of these seem to have been aimed at women to keep us in line, obviously. Apparently between 1600 and 1722, 44 local women were punished with the branks, and it seemed to be reserved mainly for uppity women. Marlene and I would spend most of our day being punished, wouldn't we? Uppity women that we are. This is Mar's Walk. Now, Mar, the Earl of Mar, quite well known round about the Alloa area for sure. In this case, walk means work. This was his work. Not only because it was his work to create this building, but also it was, at some point, it was used as a workhouse. It is an extremely creepy building. It's creepy in daylight. It's very, very creepy at night. It's allegedly haunted, obviously. Partly this is because the Earl of Mar reused stone from Cambus Kenneth Abbey. And some of the stones you can see crucifix signs, etc. It's only one of the many reasons why it could be haunted. When we walked around it, if you stick your arm in the window, it is much colder inside than it is outside. And I was actually putting a little yes stone on the window ledge, as we do. And it's been said that the building moans, and it did. As I put the yes stone down, from inside the building came this ooh noise. We quickened our step at that point. But when it was built, Mar's Walk is right at the head of Broad Street, and it would have been seen by everybody who visited the castle. It's a really powerful symbol of the Earl's wealth, and particularly scary are the gargoyles that go up the side. You can't see them very well in the darkness, but that one at the top, wrapped up, is allegedly Joan of Arc, or Jeannie Dark, as she was known locally. And there are sayings carved over the various doors, such as, "I pray all looks on the lodging with gentle eye to give their judging." Another one, "The more I stand on open height, more my faults more subject are to sight," which is kind of the tall poppy thing. The more I show off, the more chance I'll be found out, or the more I'll be cut down. Now, the Church of the Holy Roode, this is where infant King James was crowned king. Second oldest building in Stirling after the castle. It's 500 years old. It's amazing inside. If you ever get a chance to go in, the roof is stunning. It's run by volunteers, and out the back, which is actually in the graveyard, you can look up at the tower and you can see musket balls, impacts caused by Cromwell's siege of the castle in 1651. There's only one way in or out of the tower. There's a doorway which is now blocked up. But if you look up to the 3rd floor, it's said that a sniper was operating there out of the window, and that the musket balls were them desperately trying to take him out, because musket shot is very, very hard to aim. And there's quite a few of the gravestones in the cemetery there. You can see the impact of musket balls on both sides. You can just imagine a battle taking place, dodging between the gravestones. Also in this corner of Stirling is Cowan's Hospital. It's a late medieval almshouse, Scotland's oldest playable bowling green, and 2 cannons which were acquired from the Russian Tsar in Crimea, I think, or after Crimea. The statue at the top is John Cowan, and it's supposed to be quite a good likeness. And it's also said that at New Year he'll come down and dance a jig in the square. This imposing building is currently a youth hostel, but it was originally Erskine Mary Kirk. It was first created in the 1740s when the Reverend Ebenezer Erskine and some like-minded colleagues broke away from the Church of Scotland to establish their own church. The site is dominated by the Ebenezer Erskine Monument. This is the site of Ebenezer's burial. This is a toll booth by night. You might remember it if you've watched our shows on the 1820s uprising. And of course, here's the plaque where Baird and Hardy were hung. And finally, we round off our evening with a walk into the cemetery. Oldtown Cemetery is a fascinating place to go. It's definitely worth a look. The local archaeologist, Mary Kirk, does regular walks around it and pointing out particularly significant gravestones. But that's in daylight, and in the dark, it's a much spookier place. There are some very interesting graves to look at if you like a wander around a cemetery. As you know, Marlene and I do like a good cemetery. Now, you might notice that the ground is very lumpy. This is partly because there are rodents and moles around in the cemetery, but also because of over 1,000 years of successive burials creates a very rich nutrient soil, and it rises up. It's called grave creep, as if it wasn't spooky enough. This lady whose grave was robbed was Helen Stevenson, and there was a lodge, a small building was created after that so that families could watch over newly dug grave for a couple of days to make sure that nobody disturbed it. And after a couple of days, it was no use for dissection, which is what they were being stolen for. And just a point to note, Burke and Hare were not grave robbers. They were serial murderers. They didn't bother excavating bodies. They just killed people. Just a note on the 2 young women tied to stakes at low tide for refusing to acknowledge the authority of Episcopalian bishops imposed by Charles II. The story is probably made up to justify some of the actions of the Covenanters, according to the book I'm reading. So, hope you enjoyed our spooky wee wander around Stirling's dark secrets. We got home safe, so we live to wander another day. Catch you later. Bye now.